Good evening and welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Alyssa Ashe here with your nightly news recap. I hope you all are doing well and you've had a fantastic Labor Day off of work. I have a variety of stories that I'll be sharing with you guys, so stay tuned. World news, political, national, and business. And of course, I value your input so much as well. So if there are any stories that you all would like to share with me that I may not have mentioned or I may have missed throughout the day, please share them with me on Twitter. And I will throw that Twitter handle up right here so that you guys are able to see it, and it is at Alyssa RSBN. So please make sure to send your stories to me over on Twitter. I am constantly checking my Twitter messages to make sure I get them from you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. It is going to be a great night. I have a variety of stories for you guys, so stay tuned. So let's see, starting off with, so this is from Reuters News, and why the NAFTA deal is actually, they say, and this is quoted, a win-win-win. So delaying a revamped North American free trade agreement is actually a win-win-win. Canada and the United States will keep talking despite missing a Friday deadline to conclude trade talks. And negotiators will need to move quickly to avoid the risk of fresh demands from the next Mexican government. But getting a deal that all sides can sell is more important. So the mood was tense on Friday as U.S. President Donald Trump acknowledged having told Bloomberg that he was not going to make any concessions to his northern neighbor. And the United States had already shut the Canadians out of talks for weeks while it negotiated with the Mexican government. Now, on Monday, President Trump hailed a U.S.-Mexico deal on certain NAFTA provisions and threatened auto tariffs on Canada if it didn't capitulate by the end of the week. So Ottawa and Washington also appeared to remain far apart on certain issues. President Trump has slammed Canadian tariffs of up to 270% on dairy imports, and Canada objects to the U.S. demand to eliminate dispute panels for anti-dumping complaints. So that's why it's encouraging that both sides will continue negotiations next week, and the Friday deadline was set because of the 90-day notice period that Congress needs before a deal can be concluded. So meeting it would enable Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto to sign the pact before he leaves office at the end of November. But the parties have some wiggle room because the deal text doesn't have to be released until the end of September. President Trump gave notice to Congress on Friday that a trade pact with Mexico would be concluded by the end of November, and Canada could join if it is willing. Yet, President Trump's threat to do a deal with Mexico alone rings hollow because Congress has signaled that it would actually reject a bilateral deal. So if they miss the text release deadline, NAFTA could then be subject to new demands by Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the Mexican president-elect, who takes office on December 1st. So he's known as AMLO, and he said that he favors renewing the pact, but he's an economic nationalist who could raise fresh issues. And for all three countries, maintaining a trilateral deal is key to supply chains, production logistics, and agricultural sales, and it is worth the wait. And I love seeing your thoughts on this over here on the YouTube chat. And some of you are serious. Some of you may be joking a little bit. British Patriot said that moment when Mexico is more willing to make a deal than Canada, and Trudeau would make a deal if with the US instantly if it involved soybeans. So switching over to a national story, and this is from Reuters News as well. So on Labor Day, President Trump hits back at largest union leader. So U.S. President Trump on Labor Day hit back at Richard Trumka, president of the United States' largest federation of labor unions, after Trumka said on Sunday that the president's policies had hurt American workers. So Trumka, who is head of the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations, said on Fox News of President Trump's policies, "Unfortunately, to date, the things he's done to hurt workers outpace what he's done to help workers." And the AFL-CIO president cited changes to the tax code that encourage companies to outsource jobs, the administration's failure to produce an infrastructure program, and its overturning of regulations, including some protecting health and safety. Now, on Monday, the National Labor Day holiday, President Trump tweeted that Trumka had represented his union poorly. And President Trump said some of the things he said were so against the working men and women of our country and the success of the U.S. itself that it is easy to see why unions are doing so poorly. And in some follow-up tweets, the president hailed economic growth, adding the worker in America is doing better than ever before. And a spokesman for Trumka, John Weber, declined to comment back to President Trump's tweets. And Trumka had also questioned President Trump's Saturday tweet that there was no need to keep Canada in the NAFTA deal. And the president warned Congress not to meddle with the trade negotiations or he would terminate the Trilateral Trade Pact altogether. So Trumka said on Sunday, it's pretty hard to see how that would work without having Canada in the deal. And he said this, noting that the economies of Mexico, the United States, and Canada were heavily integrated. And Trumka, who met with President Trump alongside other labor leaders last month to talk about trade issues, is a highly influential figure on trade issues, and his support will likely be necessary for the passage of any legislation on trade promoted by the administration. So Democrats are working to get union members to vote in the November 6th midterm congressional elections. And former Vice President Joe Biden marched in a Labor Day parade in Pittsburgh, campaigning on behalf of Democrats. He said, "We are in a fight for the soul of America. It's about time we restore dignity to work." Now, I see many of you also commenting about Attorney General Jeff Sessions, how President Trump should fire him. And so I have another article about Jeff Sessions. This is from Reuters as well, titled "Trump Accuses Sessions of Hurting Republican Congressional Races." So President Donald Trump on Monday launched a fresh attack on Attorney General Jeff Sessions, accusing him of jeopardizing the chances of re-election for two Republican congressmen by bringing criminal charges against them just before the midterm elections. So President Trump wrote on Twitter that the Justice Department's decision to file charges will hurt safe Republican seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. And election analysts believe that there is a 50% chance the Democratic Party will take control of the House, in which all 435 seats are up for grabs in the November 6th election. Republicans currently hold a 236 over 193 advantage, and there are 6 vacant seats. And President Trump wrote 2 long-running Obama-era investigations of 2 very popular Republican congressmen were brought to a well-publicized charge just ahead of midterms by the Jeff Sessions Justice Department. 2 easy wins now in doubt because there's not enough time. Good job, Jeff. And Justice Department spokeswoman Sarah Isgor Flores declined to comment on President Trump's tweets, which did not name the congressman. So backing it up a little bit, on August 8th, Congressman Christopher Collins, a Republican who was candidate President Trump's first supporter in the House, was charged with participating in an insider trading scheme involving an Australian biotechnology company on whose board he served. And Collins has denied wrongdoing but will not seek re-election. So despite President Trump's claim that both investigations began under Democratic President Barack Obama, Collins was charged over trades in the June 2017, nearly 6 months after President Trump took office. So on August 23rd, Republican Representative Duncan Hunter was indicted on charges that he and his wife used hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign funds to pay for vacations, video games, and other personal expenses, and filed false campaign finance reports, according to federal officials. So Hunter, the second congressman to back President Trump for the White House, has denied the wrongdoing, and a recent poll put him in the lead for the election, and the Hunter investigation began under Obama. So the unorthodox presidential attack brought criticism from Republican Senator Ben Sasse, who said the United States is not some banana republic with a 2-tiered system of justice, one for the majority party and one for the minority party. These 2 men have been charged with crimes because of evidence, not because of who the president was when the investigations began. And U.S. Senator Brian Schatz, a Democrat, questioned President Trump's comments and whether they were legal. And Schatz wrote on Twitter, "He's not hiding how he views the law enforcement of justice. In his world, they swore an oath to him, not the Constitution and laws." And the president has repeatedly attacked Sessions for recusing himself from an investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election campaign. And after the recusal, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appointed Special Counsel Robert Mueller to lead the probe, which Trump calls a witch hunt. So last week, President Trump told Bloomberg the Attorney General was safe in his job until November, but declined to say if he would keep Sessions in the role beyond then. So the president has repeatedly denied there was any collusion between his campaign and Moscow, and U.S. intelligence agencies have concluded Russia tried to help President Trump win the 2016 election, but the Kremlin denies meddling. So remember, I have my Twitter handle here at the bottom of the screen, at Alyssa RSBN. And if you guys have any stories you want to share with me that I may have missed throughout the day, please send them to me on Twitter, and I will definitely share them with everyone. And switching over, you guys know that tomorrow the Senate hearings on Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court nomination will begin, and we're really excited to bring those to you guys. So I have some background information on it from Breitbart so that we can prepare for tomorrow. So all eyes will be on Capitol Hill this week as the Senate Judiciary Committee holds hearings on Judge Brett Kavanaugh, President Trump's second nominee to the U.S. Supreme Court. Thus begins the next battle in the campaign to confirm the nation's next Supreme Court justice, one that began in earnest when Justice Anthony Kennedy announced his retirement on June 27th. The Trump White House and Senate Republicans hope for a repeat of the home run success of last year's confirmation of Justice Neil Gorsuch. So the president nominated Kavanaugh, who's 53, on July 10th from his list of potential Supreme Court picks, in addition to over 10,000 pages of judicial opinions that Kavanaugh has either authored or joined in his 12 years on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. Senators received from the nominee over 100 pages of written answers to questions, accompanied by 17,000 pages of attachments, and have also received over 400,000 pages thus far of additional document pages associated with Kavanaugh from his years of public service. And this is from Breitbart, if you missed that. So all of that has been a prelude to the public hearings that will be held this week. On Tuesday, September 4th, Chairman Chuck Grassley of Iowa will call the committee to order around 9:30 a.m. He will then give his opening remarks, followed by Ranking Member Dianne Feinstein, then all the senators on the Senate Judiciary Committee in order of seniority, 21 in all. So around 2:30 p.m., the nominee will be introduced by Senator Rob Portman of Ohio and former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, both of whom worked with Kavanaugh in the Bush 43 White House, and by Supreme Court lawyer Lisa Blatt, a partner at Arnold and Porter, who's a self-described feminist and a Democrat, and she has actually endorsed President Trump's choice. And then Judge Kavanaugh will make his opening remarks to the committee. We are going to take a second. I know there have been some buffering issues. I apologize to you guys for that. We are going to do some troubleshooting real quick. Hey everyone, sorry for the delay. We were working on the buffering and hopefully it is fixed now. Definitely let me know if it's not. It is an internet issue, something that we are working through right now with Charter Spectrum. So stay tuned. Tomorrow we will go live from the big studio at headquarters just to make sure that this does not happen again until I get it fixed. So it is great to see all of you in the chat room. I know some of you have been waiting a while, so thank you so much. Appreciate each and every single one of you. And I wanted to take a second. So we were talking about Judge Kavanaugh. His confirmation hearings will actually begin tomorrow. And so going to go through some information on that with you guys. For those of you, I know some of you may have just joined us, so I'm going to back it up a little bit. And this is from Breitbart. So Senate hearings on Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court nomination will begin tomorrow. So all eyes will be on Capitol Hill this week as the Senate Judiciary Committee holds hearings on Judge Brett Kavanaugh, President Trump's second nominee to the U.S. Supreme Court. So now the battle begins in the campaign to confirm the nation's next Supreme Court justice, one that began in earnest when Justice Anthony Kennedy announced his retirement on June 27th. So the Trump White House and Senate Republicans hope for a repeat of the home run success of last year's confirmation of Justice Neil Gorsuch. So the president nominated Kavanaugh, 53, on July 10th from his list of potential Supreme Court picks, in addition to over 10,000 pages of judicial opinions that Kavanaugh has either authored or joined in the 12 years on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. Senators received from the nominee over 100 pages of written answers to questions, accompanied by 17,000 pages of attachments, and have received over 400,000 pages so far of additional documents associated with Kavanaugh from his years of public service. So all of that has been a prelude to the public hearings that will be held this week. So on Tuesday, September 4th, Chairman Chuck Grassley of Iowa will call the committee to order around 9:30 a.m. He will then give his opening remarks, followed by Ranking Member Dianne Feinstein of California. And then all the senators on the Senate Judiciary Committee in order of seniority, 21 in all. So around 2:30 p.m., the nominee will be introduced by Senator Rob Portman and former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, both of whom worked with Kavanaugh in the Bush 43 White House, and by Supreme Court lawyer Lisa Blatt, a partner at Arnold & Porter, who is a self-described feminist and a Democrat, and who has endorsed President Trump's choice. So Judge Kavanaugh will then make his opening remarks to the committee. So Wednesday, September 5th, will be the first round of questions from the committee members for the nominee to answer. Each senator has 30 minutes, managed by Grassley, and it follows the same sequence as the opening statements, as senators take turns in order of seniority, starting once again with Grassley and followed by Feinstein. So it's expected to be a long day, one that will go until at least 9:30 p.m., but possibly later when the final Republican senator finishing his questioning of the judge. So Thursday, September 6th will be the second round of questions and answers, and each senator will have 20 minutes to follow up on their initial questions or raise new matters based on the first couple days of hearings. So it's also possible that Thursday could include a brief third round of questions, including questions behind closed doors on matters that can't be discussed on camera. So the hearing's final day on Friday, September 7th, involves testimony from outside experts, beginning with two lawyers from the American Bar Association. which gave Kavanaugh a unanimous, well-qualified rating, its highest evaluation, on Friday. And the next panel will include longtime friends to give insiders accounts, including Kavanaugh's former law clerks and students, former Solicitor General Todd Olson and Paul Clement, and Yale professor Akhil Amar, who's actually a liberal. And Democrats will also have panels of their own witnesses. So the Kavanaugh hearings should conclude either late afternoon or early evening on Friday, but the battle will continue until Kavanaugh's nomination comes to the floor for a vote later this fall. He needs a majority of the vote to be confirmed, thanks to the end of the filibuster for Supreme Court nominees. And it looks like I got a few articles from you guys on Twitter. Thank you so much for these. And I'm going to share some of them with you. And switch over to the screen so that you will be able to see it and go along with me. So, a couple articles from Right Side Mark. Thank you for these. This one is from Fox News. And it says, David Hogg activists raise thousands for billboard featuring President Trump's tweets of Ted Cruz. So Parkland school shooting survivor David Hogg and other activists are working to stop Senator Ted Cruz from winning re-election by raising thousands of dollars to purchase a mobile billboard that will feature some of President Trump's scathing tweets about his former Republican rival, even though President Trump will be endorsing Senator Ted Cruz in October in Texas. So Antonio Arellano, a Texas-based activist, was joined by Hogg and political activist Claude Taylor to launch the GoFundMe page, which seeks to raise $6,000 needed for a billboard. So in a description on the GoFundMe page, the billboard is intended to be used as a reminder of President Trump's words regarding Cruz during the heated 2016 Republican presidential primary. The hatchet has long since been buried between the two men, however, and last week, President Trump announced he would headline a major rally for Cruz in October. So Democratic Representative Beto O'Rourke is challenging Cruz in November for the Senate seat. And President Trump tweeted out recently, August 31st, I will be doing a major rally for Senator Ted Cruz in October. I'm picking the biggest stadium in Texas we can find. As you know, Ted has my complete and total endorsement. His opponent is a disaster for Texas, weak on Second Amendment, crime, borders, military, and vets. So during the 2016 presidential election, President Trump nicknamed Cruz Lion Ted, and he appeared to make fun of him and even lent support to a conspiracy theory suggesting Cruz's Cuban-born father had a hand in President JFK's assassination. And Cruz responded by calling Trump a sniveling coward, a pathological liar, and a serial philanderer. So the GoFundMe page for these billboards has raised $9,760 as of Monday morning, surpassing its goal of $6,000. And an update on the website said, congratulations, thank you to your support Our campaign has reached its goal. We are no longer accepting donations at this time. So Hogg rose to prominence after becoming a gun-controlled activist following the deadly shooting at his high school. Last month, the 18-year-old told New York Magazine he planned to run for the House of Representatives when he's 25. And he tweeted with President Trump's screenshots attacking Ted Cruz, so many wonderful selections to choose from. And he added some of those Trump tweets there. So Arellano told the Washington Post that the billboard would be a mobile truck with two sides and could carry two different tweets at once, one on each side. And a Democrat has not been elected in Texas to statewide office since 1994, the longest such political losing streak in the nation. So thank you for that article, Right Side Mark. Hopefully they will not be making those billboards, but it looks like they are fully funded and on track to do so. And the British Patriot sent us a sad article. He says, a sad one, but the mainstream media has been silent about it. So we will definitely be sharing it. And this is from Reuters News. A U.S. service member was killed and another wounded in an apparent insider attack in eastern Afghanistan on Monday, the NATO-led Resolute Support Mission said in a statement. The service member, who has not been identified, was the sixth American to be killed in Afghanistan this year. The incident came 2 months after a member of a U.S. Army training unit was shot dead by an Afghan soldier in the southern province of Uzurgan. So and this is from General Scott Miller, who assumed command of NATO forces in Afghanistan on Sunday. He said, the sacrifice of our service member who volunteered for a mission to Afghanistan to protect his country is a tragic loss for all who knew and all who will now never know him. And insider attacks, often known as green or blue attacks, in which Afghan service members or attackers wearing Afghan uniforms fire on U.S. coalition troops, have been a regular feature of the conflict in Afghanistan, although their frequency has diminished in recent years. Coalition forces have also tightened security and added extra force protection measures, including special Guardian Angel units, to accompanying training units. So the Resolute Support statement said the wounded service member was in stable condition, but gave no further details, saying their name would be withheld until after next of kin were notified. So definitely keep those in your thoughts and prayers. The service members, the one that lost his or her life, and the one that was wounded in this attack today in Afghanistan. And thank you, British Patriot, for sharing that with me. Really appreciate that. So also wanted to share with you guys from Sunday night. The museum in Brazil, this just happened last night, that was completely destroyed by fire. So it's a 200-year-old national museum. You can see the picture of it right there. And this is from Breitbart. A fire of unknown origin destroyed the entirety of the National Museum of Brazil in Rio de Janeiro Sunday night, collapsing at least two of the 200-year-old former palace's floors and destroying most of the items on display, including Latin America's largest ancient Egyptian exhibit, priceless fossils, and natural artifacts. So authorities confirmed Monday morning that the museum did not have a sprinkler system or any mechanism to protect it from fires. 2 security guards were present at the scene when the fire erupted. On-site reports from Rio de Janeiro indicated that firefighters found faulty hydrants on scene when they arrived, making it impossible to pump sufficient water into the facility, and that at some point the water simply ran out. So the museum was home to one of Brazil's most prominent Portuguese royal families for most of the 1700s, converted into a museum in 1818 by King of Portugal Dom João VI, and it would have celebrated 2 centuries open had it survived this year. So at the time of its destruction on Sunday, it housed 12 million artifacts of natural, historical, or anthropological value. Most were not on display. So according to the Brazilian newspaper O Globo, nearly 80 firefighters responded to an emergency call at the museum around 7 p.m. local time. The fire raged with nearly no resistance from emergency personnel for hours. However, as the firefighters struggled to get hydrants around the facility to work and had no tools to begin controlling the fire internally. So once the hydrants started to work, firefighters were able to control parts of the fire until reports surfaced that they had either run out of water or lost the pressure necessary to propel the water out of the hoses. And I'm going to show you guys some pictures. So this is a meteorite which is seen amid debris at the National Museum. And just more pictures, flames, smoke coming out the top of the museum. So the newspaper wrote that the fire was under control by about 2 a.m. Monday local time, and authorities have not provided any known causes for the fire, but note that no injuries have been recorded as the museum closed at 5 p.m. that day, and the only 2 known security guards and 4 witnesses were on site. So another Brazilian newspaper reported on Monday that at press time, firefighters were still combating smaller embers that kept burning, but they had largely moved on to attempting to recover what they could from the rubble. And officials told reporters the second and third floors of the former palace had completely collapsed into the ground floor, likely destroying most of the artifacts on display. And a museum official confirmed to Folha, that newspaper organization, that Latin America's largest collection of Egyptian mummies, Brazil's largest fully assembled dinosaur fossil, and the remains of the oldest known indigenous Latin American were all destroyed. Folha also confirmed with an unnamed security guard at the museum that the facility did not have an on-duty 24/7 fire brigade for emergencies and did not have mechanisms like sprinklers inside to turn on automatically. And anonymous officials told the newspaper that the fire likely began on the second floor near the Indigenous Brazilians exhibit, though they did not have any inkling to the cause of the fire. So another Brazilian newspaper, O Globo, reports that the deputy director of the National Museum, Cristina Chirizo, threw herself to the ground when she arrived after the fire, crying. And some museum workers told O Globo the fire may have likely been exacerbated by the many flammable products kept inside, which they'd planned to move at some point but never got around to. And President Michel Temer issued a statement on Twitter calling the loss of the museum incalculable. And he wrote in Portuguese, 200 years of work, research, and knowledge were lost. We cannot measure the value of our history. It's a sad day for all Brazilians. And many Brazilians have reacted to the fire with anger, highlighting the years of negligence on the part of government authorities in maintaining a functioning fire department in Rio de Janeiro and appropriating sufficient funds to the museum itself. Wow, and wanted to shout out over on YouTube, we just got a $99.99 donation from Rick Moore. Thank you so much for that, Rick. Really appreciate you. And he said, thank you, go Trump. Thank you so much, Rick. That will definitely help our team get to our next rally this Thursday, Billings, Montana. It's going to be a great crew, and I will get into that more soon. But wow, thank you so much, Rick. That is so amazing and so appreciated. And we are not able to go to these rallies and to survive without donations like yours. So thank you. God bless you. Really appreciate that. Wow, and a $5 donation from JC. Thank you for that. Who says RSBN rocks. Heads up, watch Diamond and Silk and walk away with Brandon Straka on Mondays. Thank you, JC. Really appreciate that. So, protesters attempted to enter the museum grounds on Monday afternoon, demanding more funding for historic preservation and education, and police responded by using tear gas and pepper spray to keep the protesters from entering the museum site, which was not safe given the tenuous status of what remained of the building. So in a brief commentary at the Estado newspaper titled "Who Set the Museum on Fire?", writer Jose Newman expressed similar disgust at the lack of funding for preserving historical sites. And he criticized the president for the cynicism of pretending to care in his statement on Monday. And Newman wrote, "The fire that destroyed the Quinta da Boa Vista National Museum in Rio de Janeiro is absolutely unbelievable news, but never surprising, as it results from centuries of indifference, insensitivity, and incompetence of a state whose officials turn only to the prey of public coffers used only to illicitly enrich them and perpetuate this tragic reality." And he added, "The tragedy of the National Museum results from neglect, negligence, incompetence, insensitivity, stupidity, and lack of public spirit of the leaders of the Brazilian state, who are only concerned with squandering public patrimony." So Marina Amaral, a Brazilian historian who specializes in coloring historical photographs, narrated most of the fire from her Twitter account, noting bitterly the negligence that led to the firefighters being able to do little to stop the complete destruction of the facility. Amaral accused the government of being more concerned with wasting money on international sporting events than its own history. She said building gigantic stadiums for the World Cup, which were subsequently abandoned, is what really matters here. And also wanted to shout out over on YouTube, we just received a $10 donation from Pamela N. Thank you, Pamela. And she said, yay. Thank you for your donation, Pamela. Really appreciate your support. So the then leftist government of President Dilma Rousseff faced large protests during the construction of large sports facilities for both the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Summer Olympics and the 2014 FIFA World Cup. During the Olympics, the government left police stations without the money to pay for toilet paper, forcing them to ask for local donations as well as other severe shortages in funding. And during one protest at Rio's International Airport, police and emergency workers held up a large sign to arriving tourists reading, "Welcome to hell, police and firefighters don't get paid. Whoever comes to Rio de Janeiro will not be safe." So many of Rio de Janeiro's sports facilities have since been abandoned to looters and neglect, and the city's economics have not improved significantly. And in February, the federal government sent in the military to take over managing the police and fire departments. The total loss from yesterday's fire has not been calculated at the present time. And wow, we just received another donation, $10, over on YouTube from B. Neal, who said, in honor of our combat vets. Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, B. Neal. Really appreciate you. And if you are one yourself, thank you for your service. So I'm going to take a moment for those of you that may not know. You might see people donating here on YouTube and you're kind of wondering why. Well, your donations actually help us get to President Trump rallies all around the country. We are so blessed to be able to do that. I started with Right Side just at the end of May, and I've already been able to go to 8 rallies. I have a little list on my phone, and it's so cool. Areas I never would have gone to. So the rallies are a lot of fun. Something RSBN's famous for is that we really get in the middle of the crowd. We interview people. We ask them why they're there, why it's important to them, you know, what the president means to them, where they're from, and of course, different issues they are passionate about. And it's so fun to do that. I love hearing people's stories. That's my favorite part of my job. It's such an honor. So as you can imagine, these rallies are very expensive. They're a minimum of about $500 for each one. And it's expensive, you know, getting up there, whether we're flying or driving. We get rental cars a lot. And then you have gas, food, lodging. We try to get Airbnbs most of the time because they are cheaper than hotel rooms for our crew. And we also have a couple $100s just to get that live view unit up that we actually stream from. Every time we simply turn it on, they charge us. So it's very expensive. So a few different ways you can donate just to help us stay on the air. And I'm so thankful for all those donations that came in tonight, one after another, starting off with Rick Moore. Thank you so much. So one way you can donate, some of you have already noticed this tonight, is here on YouTube in the super chat, and that is the $sign in the bottom left corner if you are watching it on a computer. And so you can donate there. It'll come up in a bright color with your name and a message, which is super fun. I get to read it to the whole world, and I always do as long as it is appropriate. And also there are a couple different ways you can donate through our website as well. And I'm going to pull that up for you guys and show you for those of you that may not be familiar. So you just go to rsbnetwork.com. And you can click this donate tab right here, the fourth tab over on the top. And then you can see your different options. And speaking of donations, we just got a donation for 2018 from Cloud Watchers 6114. Thank you so much, Cloud Watcher. Really appreciate you and your donation. So different ways over on our website. The first one is with PayPal or a credit card. So you can click that. If you have a PayPal account, you can simply log in right here. You can enter the amount, or if you're donating with a debit or credit card, you just enter your information right here. Billing address, contact information. You can save it for a later time if you want to come back to it. Also, if maybe you feel more invested with RSBN, you really like what you're seeing, and you want to make sure we stay on the air, you can click this second link here, and it'll take you to patreon.com, and we have updated our Patreon website. You can see some new pictures there. Now, Patreon's really fun because you can actually become a monthly donor, and you get fun things in return, like pens and pencils and hats, mugs, and just different things to remember us, to show us off to your friends, to remember to watch our shows throughout the day. So you can actually become a patron. So you can click that right there and choose your level from entry level all the way up to all access if you are actually donating $500 or more a month. And of course, you can also do a custom pledge where you can donate any amount without selecting a reward. Also, that last way, if maybe you are not comfortable donating online, we completely understand and respect that. And you can actually write a check out to RSBN and send it right here to our P.O. Box in Auburn, which you can see is up right now, and it is 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama, 36830. And so we're very thankful for everyone that donates that way. Thank you so much, moderators, for commenting that. RSBN moderator just commented our mailing address. Appreciate you. And I wanted to just take a second to thank all of the moderators that are in the chat room tonight. It looks like RSBN moderator is here. And I know some were earlier as well. Their names aren't showing up right now, but also wanted to thank those moderators on our website, Common Sense, Glenn O, and Raculp. Thank you for keeping things clean and friendly over on our website. And some members here on YouTube as well. History B, Zoom Zoom, James Wolf, DM, JC. And let's see who else is here. I don't want to miss anyone. B. Neil. Thank you guys so much for donating regularly, those members over on YouTube. Really appreciate you. So I was looking through the Daily Wire earlier today, and I found an article I thought you guys would really like. So voters are actually siding with President Trump on security clearances. So how do voters feel about President Trump revoking former CIA director and current MSNBC analyst John Brennan's security clearance, and threatening to do the same for other former big names in the intelligence community? A new Harvard Capps Harris survey reported by The Hill found that a strong majority agree with the president. And 5X Champs 2 said, check your PayPal account, Alyssa. So that probably means you donated. Thank you so much, 5X Champs. Really appreciate that. So The Hill said that the survey showed 59% of registered voters felt Brennan should have lost his security clearance, while 64% said Comey and others at the FBI who were fired or demoted over their actions should lose their clearance. And the issue, the poll suggests, comes down to what former national security officials do after leaving office. If they become consultants or news contributors like Brennan, 60% said that they should have their clearances stripped. So former Bill Clinton pollster and advisor Mark Penn, who has frustrated his liberal colleagues by sounding the alarm over the Mueller investigation's potential abuse of power, said the results show that there would definitely be a support for wholesale policy revoking their clearances. So President Trump's crackdown on security clearances began with Brennan, who has repeatedly accused President Trump and his team of various illegal actions, and Brennan has portrayed President Trump's revocation of his clearance as a grave abuse of his executive authority, which is part of a broader effort by President Trump, he says, to suppress freedom of speech and punish critics. So in an op-ed for the New York Times after his clearance was revoked, Brennan laid out his accusations of collusion against President Trump. And Brennan wrote, Mr. Trump's claims of no conclusion are, in a word, hogwash. The only questions that remain are whether the collusion took place, constituted criminal libel conspiracy, whether obstruction of justice occurred to cover up any collusion or conspiracy, and how many members of, he called it, Trump Incorporated, attempted to defraud the government by laundering and concealing the movement of money into their pockets. So in a scathing response, Senate Select Committee on Intelligence Chair Senator Richard Burr suggested Brennan's New York Times op-ed was a prime example of why he had his privileges revoked. And Director Brennan's recent statements purport to know as fact that the Trump campaign colluded with a foreign power, according to Burr in a press statement. And he said, if Director Brennan's statement is based on intelligence he received while still leading the CIA, why didn't he include it in the intelligence community assessment released in 2017? If his statement is based on intelligence he has seen since leaving office, it constitutes an illegal and intelligence breach. If he has some other personal knowledge or evidence of collusion, it should be disclosed to the special counsel, not the New York Times. And switching over to a Breitbart article, it is really just a short follow-up on something you guys may have already known about. So back in June, 146 illegal aliens were arrested in an Ohio meatpacking raid. So the update is now that 13 of them used fake IDs. So after nearly 150 suspected illegal aliens were arrested at an Ohio meatpacking plant, 13 illegal aliens have been charged with using fraudulent identities to appear as though they were working in the United States legally. So back in June, 146 suspected illegal aliens, primarily from Guatemala, were arrested at the Freshmark meatpacking plant in Salem and Massillon, Ohio, in one of the largest worksite ICE raids of the year. So since the ICE raid, 13 illegal aliens have now been hit with federal charges for allegedly using fake identities to gain employment at the Freshmark, according to Cleveland.com. So all but 2 of the 13 illegal aliens charged are from Guatemala, and the other 2 illegal aliens are from Mexico. So a lawsuit filed in 2001 against Freshmark accused the meat processor of knowingly hiring illegal aliens for decades and even having employees forge work documents for illegal aliens so they could appear as though they were working legally in the U.S. So since 2011, Freshmark has had 2 Guatemalan nationalists actually die on the job at the meatpacking plant, and one of those Guatemalans, an illegal alien, died in December of last year at the plant. So there have yet to be any charges filed against Freshmark for hiring the illegal alien workers, though investigators say the case is still pending and has not yet been concluded. And switching over, I am checking Twitter real quick and seeing what other articles you guys have sent me. So this is from the Daily Wire, and the British Patriot sent it to me. I'm going to share it with you guys so that you can see it. So Buzz Aldrin blasts first man for not showing planting of U.S. flag on moon. And this is from the Daily Wire. So one time a moon landing denier got in Buzz Aldrin's face. So Aldrin is 72 years old at the time, punched a guy right in the jaw with a fierce right cross. Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon, is not a guy you want to mess around with even at 88. And when he has an opinion, you better believe he voices it. So over the weekend, the astronaut weighed in on the new movie First Man, a biopic about the first man to step on the moon, Neil Armstrong. And the movie stars actor Ryan Gosling, but not the American flag. The moment when the U.S. flag was planted on the moon was omitted from the movie because, as Gosling said, I think this was widely regarded in the end as a human achievement, and that's how we chose to view it. So on Sunday, Aldrin tweeted a picture of the flag planted on the moon during the landing in 1969. And he hashtagged the photo, proud to be an American. And he also retweeted a photo of himself saluting next to it in the same picture. And you can see his tweet right here. Hashtag proud to be an American. Hashtag freedom. Hashtag honor. Hashtag one nation. Hashtag Apollo 11. Hashtag July 1969, hashtag road to Apollo 50. And I am going to take a quick second to gather things, so stay tuned and don't go anywhere. So switching back, sorry about that, we are going to finish this Buzz Aldrin article. And someone else tweeted, "The ultimate selfie. Thank you for sharing the wonderful photo and your incredible journey at The Real Buzz." So the film is also not kind to Aldrin, portraying him as an obnoxious loudmouth and so blunt about his ambition that no one can stand him, according to the Daily Mail. So other reviews described actor Corey Stoll's Aldrin as a swaggering hothead who is cynical, mouthy, and insensitive, while one reviewer said his appearances were so scarce that he was all but left out of the film. And one Twitter follower said he planned to boycott the movie over the omission of the American flag. Michael said, "Thank you, Mr. Aldrin, for your great service and for post this picture. I got all choked up. I will not be seeing the movie out of respect for you and the other astronauts." And it says, "Let's hope lots of other good Americans do the same thing." I can't believe that they left the flag out of the movie. That's crazy. What do you guys think of it? Please let me know on here or on Twitter at Alyssa RSBN. Tell me your thoughts. And, you know, if you've seen the movie, what do you think of it? Let me know. And it is called First Man. And a great story from Right Side Mark. Thank you for sharing this. This is actually from Yahoo Sports. And I'll switch over so that I can show you guys a picture. So Seahawks Blazers owner donates $100,000 to help Republicans in the House. And you can see a picture of him here. Seahawks owner Paul Allen has donated $100,000 to a fundraising committee dedicated to helping Republicans maintain control of the U.S. House of Representatives, according to a new report in the Seattle Times. It's the largest single check he sent to a political action committee, according to federal election records, and it's one of many donations he's made to a range of bipartisan causes. So Allen donated $100,000 to Protect the House, a joint fundraising committee headed by House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, with the goal of holding on to the Republican majority in the House in this fall's competitive elections. So joint fundraising committees allow wealthy individuals, Allen has reported net worth in excess of $20 billion, to donate significant sums that are later divided among a range of causes. So Protect the House has raised more than $13 million nationally, with Allen's gift placing him among the top 50 donors. So the donation is notable given Allen's history of bipartisan and even Democratic-leaning giving. So far during this election cycle, he has given $173,500 to Republican candidates and committees, as opposed to $45,900 to Democratic candidates and causes. And during the 2016 election cycle, he gave $74,500 to Democratic candidates and $52,500 $400 to Republican ones. So notable among Allen's other donations is a $1 million check to help the passage this November of Washington State Initiative on Gun Safety Reform. And the initiative aims to raise the minimum age to buy semi-automatic rifles to 21, as well as increase the stringency on background checks. And Allen's spokesman, John Pinette, told the Seattle Times in a statement, Paul Allen has supported both Republicans and Democrats over the years, and he'll continue to support candidates on both sides of the aisle. So Allen is among a number of NFL owners who have given to conservative causes. Houston Texans owner Bob McNair gave $371,500 to protect the house. And 8 NFL owners donated a total of $7.25 million to President Donald Trump's inauguration in 2017, including McNair, the Patriots' Robert Kraft, and the Rams' Stan Kroenke, and the Jets' Woody Johnson. So the NFL, of course, has since found itself in President Trump's crosshairs over protests during the national anthem. And President Trump continues to criticize the NFL for allowing players to silently protest the national anthem. So thank you so much, Right Side Mark. Also, I love your Twitter name. That's great. Thank you for sharing this with us, that the Seahawks owner Paul Allen has donated $100,000 to help Republicans maintain control of the House. And switching back over, I'm going to have my Twitter handle up for you guys for a second, at Alyssa RSBN, so that if you have any stories that I haven't shared yet, please send them to me on Twitter, at Alyssa RSBN. It can be national, business, world, even local. Would love to share it with you. And I'm trying to pull another one up for you guys. Stay tuned. So this one is really heartwarming. I don't know if you have seen it or not yet. The British Patriot actually shared it with me, but it is an emotional father-son reunion, and it has over 15 million views. So it is of an 84-year-old dad reuniting with his 53-year-old son who has Down syndrome, and it's melted the hearts of over 15 million people worldwide. So going to show you guys that video, and then we will go through a little bit more information about it. So really a sweet story there. And I will share with you guys some information about it. So for the first time in 25 years, Matt Kobrink, 53, was separated from his father, Malcolm, 88, who lives in Los Angeles, when Matt flew to New York to meet Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees, his favorite baseball player. And the last time father and son had been separated came in 1993 when Matt's mother passed away. So Matt's sister, Marcy, 56, used her smartphone to videotape this highly emotional reunion as Matt smothered his father with kisses. And she told People magazine, "I knew that my brother and my father are so closely attached, and I knew that after 5 days, my brother was really going to be missing my father. They've never been separated for 5 days." And she said her brother's reaction came as no surprise. She said, "I expect that kind of reaction from him. Sometimes I won't see him for a few days, and then I'll go to his house, or my dad will bring him over here, and he will kiss me like 20 times. He's just very loving and happy to see everyone." People all over the world were sending me pictures of their children with Down syndrome, telling me that it made them cry, that they're so happy to see such a long, loving relationship between my father and my brother. And she continued to say it gives them hope for their children, or they have a cousin who has Down syndrome, and that it's so nice to see something that's happy instead of things that are negative. And she said, "We just want to share the love. We want to let people know that it's really not Down syndrome. We call it Up syndrome because my brother has brought so much love into everybody's life that he comes into contact with. It's really remarkable." What a sweet story. Thank you so much, British Patriot, for sharing that with me. I am definitely glad it went viral as well. And I want to end this broadcast tonight on this story because I love ending on a positive note whenever possible. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for your donations, and your engagement in the chat room has been just great. Appreciate each and every single one of you. And make sure to tune in tomorrow as we will be streaming Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation hearings all day long, and then my news recap at night. So stay tuned. It is going to be a fun day. And once again, for Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Alyssa Ashe. Have a great night.